conservative people to act like they're not the biggest fucking babies also is fucking hilarious. Have you seen this fucking My People, Whiny? We're all fucking upset. There's enough of us to get it going, trending anyway. We're upset about the new Cinderella movie. The actress playing Cinderella isn't white. There's no prince. They changed the story. What am I going to tell my kids? The shit that my people get upset about. What am I going to tell my kids? Well, fucking talk around it the way you do we talk around the real history of this country. I think you can do that you can talk around fucking genocide and slavery. I think you can talk around a stupid fucking movie about some broad who didn't exist. You can't do that? Go take him to go see fucking Pinocchio. I don't like Pinocchio because that fucking wooden puppet transitions into a real boy. First of all, I don't like trans people, and God only makes real boys, not some immigrant named Geppetto. What am I supposed to tell my kids?
That was another fantastic rant from Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast, and I think that everything he said there was spot on. Now, to be fair, he does take some swipes at liberals in that episode because he thinks that they're also a little bit too sensitive as well. But I mean, the current prevailing narrative in this country is that liberals and the left are by far the biggest snowflake pearl clutchers who support censorship and tone policing and all that bullshit. But in reality, the average right-winger is far more hypersensitive to things that offend them than the biggest snowflake on the left is. So it was really cathartic as a leftist for him to challenge that prevailing narrative and give most Americans a much needed reality check. But I think that the reason why the right has gotten away with being the supposed warriors against political correctness for so long is because they've been able to successfully frame their anti-woke outrage as a response to the era of political correctness catalyzed by SJWs. But more Americans are starting to realize that the right has become everything that they once denounced. So the shrieking about something being woke or DEI and being triggered by trans people and gay people, it seems hypocritical to a lot of people who were told by right-wingers who are seemingly offended by everything that you shouldn't be so sensitive. You should maybe take a joke from time to time, legalize comedy, as they say. But I mean, think about it. They went from lambasting cancel culture in 2021 and 2022 to full-throatedly embracing cancel culture by 2023 and 2024 with book bans and anti-woke scolding and boycotts of companies that were too woke. They've become everything that they said that they hated. And Bill Burr is pointing out that hypocrisy in a hilarious way. And it's about damn time. Somebody needed to say it. I've been saying it for a long time, but nobody's going to listen to me, but they will listen to somebody with cultural clout like Bill Burr. Now, to clarify, I think that he was referring to Snow White and not Cinderella. And to my understanding, the casting of Rachel Zegler, the actress in that movie who plays Snow White, really marked the beginning of the right-wing outrage for that particular movie that he's referring to, since she is a Latina. And they want Snow White to be white. But she's remained a target as well because of political views that she's expressed. She's made anti-Trump posts on social media. She's spoken out in favor of Palestine. But when it comes to, somebody like Gina Carano, the right is very adamant that actors and actresses should never be punished for expressing their political views. But when it comes to somebody like Rachel Zegler, who is not in agreement with them, all of a sudden she's bad and she should be canceled. And also she's not white, so or she's not white enough, I should say, so she shouldn't be Snow White. So they're complete fucking hypocrites. But with regard to this movie, there really is something for everybody to hate because it also stars Gal Gadot, who's an Israeli that openly supports her country even as it commits a genocide in Gaza. But I mean, putting aside all of this, the movie just looks like shit. So I don't know why anyone would watch it in the first place. With that being said, Snow White is just the tip of the iceberg, and it's one example of right-wing outrage that has been so over the top that it looks cartoonishly fucking stupid. It almost looks like a satire, but it's not. It's real life. I mean, shows like Star Wars The Acolyte, as well as games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, have been the subject of so much right-wing outrage that it almost feels like we're watching a parody, like something from Idiocracy. And all of this outrage stems from people being mad about the race of certain characters. And this type of right-wing backlash has become so common that the developers of Assassin's Creed actually expected to be harassed simply because they made one of the characters black. And even though this rage is obviously fueled by explicit racism, the grifters who farm outrage off of racist, anti-woke content and DEI, they don't frame it that way. Instead, they frame it as an attempt to impose progressive cultural values on consumers and to erase straight white men from video games, which implicitly communicates the inherent evilness of privileged straight white men whose cultural hegemony should ultimately be opposed and replaced. Now, according to them, it's not about equality, because representation in their mind is a zero-sum game. So black and brown people becoming more visible in culture, in their minds, invisibilizes white men. But I've got bad news for all of these people who buy into this horseshit. It's just racism, pure and simple. We know what you mean when you say you don't like Miles Morales in Spider-Man because he's a DEI character. We know what you mean when you say that a movie like Jurassic Park went woke because they casted a black actress in the movie. And they think they're being clever, but they're not being clever. And these rationalizations barely conceal the true nature of their outrage. Do you think that people in favor of segregation during the 60s just straight up said that they were racist? Of course not. They cloaked their racism in a pseudo-intellectualism. So rather than just admitting that they were racist and they didn't want their kids to go to school with black kids because they were racist, they argued, about the inherent differences between the races and how race mixing would uproot societal harmony and would be bad for all children, including black children as well. It wasn't that they were racist. Quite the contrary. They liked black people. They loved them, in fact. They support equality for both races despite arguing that they needed to remain separate. Separate but equal. I mean, we look back at that argument and we can see why they said what they said. They wanted to be racist without explicitly saying that they were racist, but they were making a racist argument. I mean, you can apply this to basically any civil rights battle. Do you think that the bigots during the 2000s argued against marriage equality by just admitting that they hate gay people and they think that gay people are icky? Of course not. They would talk about how, marriage is just a cherished institution that was ordained by God, not the state. And so by allowing the state to grant marriage rights to anybody, you're taking away something that's supposed to be God's. I mean, till this day, conservatives insist that the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Rather, it was about states' rights. Never mind the fact that, the states wanted the right to own human beings as property, but it wasn't about slavery. It was about states resisting a tyrannical federal government that wanted to impose its will on them. So nobody's going to just straight up say what they mean, because explicit racism in today's society is rejected. There's backlash to it. So they cloak it in some other argument that's more palatable to people who might not notice that. So I say all this to say that you can try to apply a thin veneer of intellectualism to your dumbass bigotry, but at the end of the day, it's still just bigotry. You're not fooling anyone. Well, I shouldn't say that. You are fooling some people, but only the dumbest rubes in society. But society has regressed to the point where there's basically a cottage industry that's emerged to embolden anti-woke white supremacists. There's a woke-busting app that helps you to avoid woke brands so you don't accidentally purchase a product from a company that might offend you. There's also a curated list of Steam games that helps consumers avoid woke games and anything that includes DEI, LGBTQ+, or anti-capitalist content that might be offensive to anti-woke gamers. But I mean, you can call it anti-woke, you can call it CRT, you can call it political correctness, you can call it PC outrage, you can call them SJWs, but at the end of the day, it's the same bullshit. Same shit, different era. It's just presented in a new package. But you see, the problem with the anti-woke right, like their evangelical predecessors from the 2000s during the Bush era, is that they went a little bit too far and got a little bit too hysterical to the point where they're now basically turning off the normies. They're now the ones being met with backlash, so much so that farming outrage off of them is now becoming lucrative. Case in point, Opera GX announced that they're developing a feature for their browser that removes Grums, an anti-woke game developer, from the web so you don't have to hear him bitch and moan about woke video games. On top of that, the official Assassin's Creed Twitter account ratioed Elon Musk into oblivion on his own app after he attacked Hassan Piker for playing their game on stream. And they pointed out how he literally paid someone to boost his character in Path of Exile 2 so that way he can look like an elite gamer and come off as cool to the gamers, which is just so pathetic and embarrassing beyond belief, but that's besides the point. You know, they also dunked on Grums for shitting on their game while pointing out that their game is out, which is a reference to a game that he's supposedly been developing for a decade or so that hasn't been released. In other words, we're already starting to see the culture shift back in the opposite direction, which is going to be really tiring for all the corporations who are currently cutting DEI, because in a couple of years when they bring it back or bring up something new to replace it, they're going to have to figure out a way to rationalize that once the culture shifts again. But I mean, it's gotten so bad where now apolitical game streamers are so tired of having to tiptoe around anti-woke sensibilities of right-wing snowflakes that they're just going off on them at this point because they don't want to hear their bullshit. One example is Fightin' Cowboy. He's a massive gamer in the Soulsborne space, and I've enjoyed his content personally for years myself. He makes really good walkthroughs if you play Dark Souls or Sekiro. But a couple of weeks ago, he went on a glorious rant against racist dipshits who took issue with him playing the new Assassin's Creed game. Listen to what he says.
I don't give a fuck what your opinion is of this game. I don't care. Your opinion is worthless to me. The quality of health of my morning shit had a bigger impact on my thought process today than you being upset that there's a black guy in Assassin's Creed. So shut the fuck up. All right? We're not doing this shit. It's a fucking video game. If you are upset that there's a black guy in a video game, fuck off. I don't want you here. I don't care. Stop. I'm not doing this fucking argument. Every goddamn game these days. Oh, it's woke. Oh, there's a black guy. Oh, there's a trans person. Shut the fuck up. Either play the game or go the fuck outside, bro. It's not that hard. God damn. I've been on this earth 37 fucking years. When I was a kid, guess what? If a game came out and I didn't want to get involved with it, I didn't fucking play with it. I didn't go on the internet and cry like an entitled little child. Wah, 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 wah. The game doesn't have stuff that I want. So shut the fuck up and leave, bro. Are you that much of a fucking loser that you're seeking out streams of a game you don't like just to be like, wah, I don't like this. There's a black guy. Shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's all. This is the only rant. I'm getting this shit out of the way now. Stop. Because any comment, any fucking comment, I'm just going to ban you. I don't care. I'm just going to fucking ban you. I don't care. I don't have time for it, bro. I'm here to play a fucking game, not listen to you cry about a black dude that existed in history, that was brought over to Japan as a slave and then taken on by Nobunaga and made a fucking retainer. All right. If that upsets you, if that makes you not feel like you're in your special place, that's not my fucking problem. Go talk to your therapist about it.
That was incredible. And Cowboy went massively viral for that rant because it resonated with people. You know, like Bill Burr, he's acknowledging what other people are starting to see but too afraid to vocalize, because if you dare speak about how the right-wing snowflakes sound identical to the SJW caricatures that they've been whining about for years, they'll harass you in the same way that they harass non-white actors and actresses for taking roles that they think white people should have instead. And they'll accuse you of being woke yourself or pro-DEI or whatever bullshit they concoct. But predictably, you know, some of the loudest grifters in that space seized on that viral clip of Cowboy to farm more outrage off of him and portray him as some sort of a liberal cuck, but he had the perfect response to them.
Everyone's so fucking caught up on dumb bullshit about fucking race wars and gender wars and all this bullshit. This big fucking stupid grift machine that's designed to make you angry. You want to know who you should be angry at? Look at the fucking people upstairs, bro. The people in charge want you to be angry. Because when you're too busy blaming the fucking dude down the street who's just trying to live his life, they're sitting there fucking counting money. You want to have a real war? Let's have a fucking class war. Let's get rid of the fucking billionaire dickheads that are literally butt fucking our country and taking money from it. But that won't fucking happen. Because you want to know who these dickheads that keep telling you to be angry are getting paid by? The same fucks that are robbing you of pennies on every single dollar you earn. They want you to be angry and to blame the black guy and to blame the gay guy and, oh, the fucking trans shows. Because those are boogeymen. So you don't look at them while they take your fucking 401k and dick it down.
10 out of 10, no notes. Or I should say 5 out of 5, because that's the scale that Cowboy uses to grade games. But I mean, everything you said there is spot on. That's the same thing that I say on this show all the time. Scapegoating people who are marginalized, has long been used by the right to distract people from the exploitation of the capitalist class. Because if you're fighting each other, you're not going to fight the people at the top who's exploiting everyone. And to be clear, anti-woke outrage is not a new phenomenon. Conservatives have always understood that capturing culture is their key to political success, which is why they've invested heavily in the online right-wing ecosystem. It's why they're forming their own anti-woke movie studios to produce anti-woke movies, things that they say Hollywood would never greenlight. It's why Elon Musk bought Twitter, to control discourse and culture. It's why there's a concerted effort to frame conservatism as a subversive subculture, as if it's the new punk rock or some shit like that, which I don't know who buys that, but some people do. But it's nothing more than the same shit in a brand new package. It's new marketing. See, when I was a kid, the right would shriek about spiritual warfare. They still do to some extent. And they would talk about how the devil is waging spiritual warfare through media and pop culture. And they'd whine about video games like Pokemon and how evil it was because that taught kids inadvertently about evolution, which, you know, is bad because creationism is what you're supposed to teach your children, even though it's wrong. Now, as a kid, I remember my pastor made a huge fucking stink about Pokemon, and my family then pressured me and really guilt-tripped me into getting rid of everything that I had that was Pokemon. My Pokemon cards, my Pikachu stuffed animal, my Pokemon stuffed animals, everything. Because, you know, if I didn't, I would go to hell. And this was one of many things that I had to get rid of because of anti-woke right-wing snowflakes. I was told that I would go to hell for playing Animal Crossing because one of the characters had a crystal ball. So, you know, that was the occult. And if you play that game, even if you avoid the character with the crystal ball, you're still basically doing witchcraft. So, you know, I've been dealing with right-wing snowflakes for my entire fucking life, and I've been sick of it. They've always whined about pop culture and things that are evil, that offend them, but the right learned that you're not going to win over the normies by simply saying that you shouldn't watch a movie because it glorifies the devil or the occult. They learned to get a little bit smarter and try to cast a larger net. So instead of saying, hey, this movie is evil because, you know, it's promoting a culture that we don't like, it's anti-evangelical, or it has themes that might be conducive to somebody questioning their faith, they say, well, you know what, this movie is anti-white. Or, you know, it attacks your masculinity. That's an attack on you and who you are, the essence of who you are as a man. And when the anti-woke era inevitably comes to an end, which it will, there's going to be something new to take its place. You know, we just had CRT a couple of years ago. We don't hear about that because it's been replaced by a new acronym, DEI. There's always going to be something new. They'll change the marketing, but it's the same fucking thing with the same goal. But unfortunately for them, we've now reached the point with the anti-woke bullshit where once again, people are sick of this shit, including some of the peddlers of anti-woke outrage themselves. And I say this because Asmongold, a gaming streamer who's unfortunately become one of the largest right-wing political channels on YouTube, well, he was playing Assassin's Creed himself on stream, and he liked it. And it was clear that his audience wasn't getting what they expected from him. They wanted him to shit on the game for being woke, but he wasn't doing that because he enjoyed the game. So what resulted was this hilarious tap dance that he was doing where he had to avoid the elephant in the room. Just look at this short clip.
You plan on beating Shadows? Yeah, sure, I'll beat the game. Why wouldn't I? Don't force yourself to? No, I'm not. I've been enjoying this. I've been enjoying this.
So clearly he's afraid of the audience that he cultivated, which is funny to me. But at the end of the day, it just goes to show you that nonstop outrage is not sustainable. Certainly it can be effective in some ways, but you've got to pick and choose your battles wisely. And the right has not done that because they're not good at reading the room. They never have been able to read the room because they're out of touch, they're clueless, and they just have one political project, which is to distract people so they can get in office and gut the government and give tax cuts to rich people. So whatever they can say to make the peasants applaud and be distracted, that's what they're going to opt for. But I mean, if you don't pick and choose your battles, and if you say that every fucking thing is woke, the veil is going to slip and people are going to start to recognize the hollowness of the grift. If everything is woke or DEI, life just becomes too exhausting for regular people and they get overwhelmed and they end up just tuning out entirely and resenting the people who are trying to dictate what they should or shouldn't like. I mean, Kid Rock, who spearheaded the anti-woke boycott against Bud Light, was seen drinking a Bud Light during the boycott. Because at the end of the day, playing a woke game or watching a woke movie has no material impact on your life. And eventually people realize this, because once you remove the woke menace from your life and you filter out every single movie or video game that has woke and DEI in it, you begin to realize that you're still broke, you're still miserable, and life still sucks. You're forced to reckon with the fact that you were being distracted by a movement that wasn't really offering you anything substantive. They were just profiting off of your temporary rage. And the grifters on Twitter and YouTube continuously pump out this bullshit to their viewers because ginning up racism and bigotry to farm engagement from online algorithms is the easiest way ever to make money and stay relevant if you don't actually have any talent or anything of value to say. So in conclusion, I think that it's clear that the growing backlash to right-wing snowflakes, in my mind, is an indication that the temporary cultural dominance that right-wingers are finally experiencing is not long for this world. It's already starting to kind of fall apart. And I'm thankful that people like Bill Burr and Fightin' Cowboy are holding a mirror to the faces to all of these people who have complained so long about cancel culture, but now have become the cancel culturers themselves. It's just, you love to see it. And I think that it's long overdue for people to start shitting on them.
Woke mob. Woke mob.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke test.
Woke ideology.
Woke Olympics.
Woke ideology.
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 Weaponized wokery.
Woke ideology.